Settlement rumors running wild. As today on the court docket, a settlement conference between the SEC and Ripple popped up out of nowhere. Brad Garlinghouse, Stuart Alderoty photographed walking up the New York courthouse steps. Interesting to see Brad Garlinghouse present. This wasn't just the attorneys from the two sides, but also the CEO of Ripple. Everyone wondering what's going on here. I tried to get the best opinions and sources for you so we could wade through this and try to get a clearer picture. Former SEC Regional Director Mark Fagel, he was tagged on the court docket, the settlement hearing, and asked, what's going on here? What are you seeing? And he said, oh wow, Ripple settled. They've agreed to pay $2 billion, and it's now illegal for you to trade XRP. And then he followed up with, oops, I misread that. It's actually likely just a mandatory meeting, and the chances of settlement are close to zero. Now, he reiterates, that's just his personal opinion. Of course, he's no longer at the SEC, doesn't have any inside information here, which is good, because if he still was at the SEC, he wouldn't be talking to us. I like to use him as a source, because he's not a, crypto bro. He doesn't even like crypto. And even though he slants more towards the SEC's perspective, he's able to give you pretty good analysis here. Fox News reporter Eleanor Terrett, she posted the actual order by the judge, stating that Ripple and the SEC had a mandatory 1-hour meeting to try to work out a settlement. The courts would rather have the parties settle rather than to have to rule here. And also, if you read the actual order, it says that the parties involved had to be there and their counsel. So that's probably why we saw Brad Garlinghouse, the head honcho of Ripple. He probably was required to be part of that meeting along with his attorneys. Is it possible that some sort of deal was struck? Absolutely. This is why the courts order these types of hearings. So, it's one last effort to try to come together and settle this thing out. But why did Mark Fagel say it's almost a zero chance? Well, it was absolutely a dominating victory for Ripple and XRP holders, ruling that XRP can trade freely on the secondary market even if Ripple's the one doing the selling. That's going to be very difficult for the SEC to accept, and Ripple ain't giving that away. Not as they're sitting on, almost 50 billion, 45 billion in XRP. They're not going to go, well, sure, here you go. You can have that ruling back. We won't sell any of our valuable assets. That ain't going to happen. So we're miles apart here on which each side would be willing to concede. If the SEC agrees that it's okay for Ripple and anyone else to sell XRP on the secondary market, and that's not a security offering, well, they're going to have a hard time claiming that, Cardano or Polkadot or any of these other crypto assets should be under their jurisdiction. Could be done. They could say, look, this is specific and only for XRP, but it makes their job much harder. SEC, they're using taxpayer money. So the cost of this ongoing litigation is not a big concern of theirs. So the question is, what type of settlement could be chefed up where it benefits them in some way? Gives them some power over the crypto space, and why would Ripple do that? It's hard for me to imagine at this point in time that some sort of settlement gets done, but really no one other than Ripple and the SEC knows at this time. Maybe they settle because they think they're going to get some really small penalty and they want to save some face here. Ripple pay them to go away. Maybe they pivot to saying, it's really proof of stake coins that are the issue because people are pooling their assets in this common enterprise to earn a yield of some sort. They could run that way and try to just close this issue out with Ripple. It's very possible. Something could be done here, but it would have to really help out the SEC. Maybe they need more resources, something like that. The normal drivers that cause you to settle money isn't really an issue for the government here. They have no problem wasting the taxpayers' dollar. We understand that. If I had to guess here, probably they sat there for the required hour, chit-chat a little bit, and then checked out. Again, I don't know how long they were in there for. That wasn't reported. Only time will tell. We'll know soon enough, but I expect this to go to the end, and I'm going to be very interested to see what that fine ultimately is. We will have more information once we see Ripple's response here, and they try to argue how many of those sales took place overseas and what was their actual profit from those sales that could be possibly disgorged. I think the real argument for fines and penalties is on the horizon, and it starts as soon as Ripple files that reply and gives their logic and reasoning for whittling that $2 billion ridiculous number down to something more manageable. As a non-attorney, just goofball YouTuber, if I had to guess, I'll put settlement at maybe 5 or 10%, with the more likely case the judge eventually has to come up with some sort of penalty amount that's much, much lower than that $2 billion ask by the SEC. I would think, $100 or $200 million, but we really don't know till we see that reply from Ripple how much of that took place under U.S. jurisdiction. Lastly, there was a really odd settlement that took place with the SEC that I haven't seen publicized. Apparently, Empower Oversight settled their lawsuit over the Hinman docs. They were trying to get their hands on those documents. They thought there was something going on behind the scenes, and they've settled that issue with the SEC. No explanation, to my knowledge, why at this point in time. Some people hypothesize it may be because SEC brought them in and let them inspect the documents in person. Maybe there wasn't something there. Maybe it was something totally different. I don't know. That was shocking. I expected them to really go after those docs, and all of a sudden it's settled, at least from the document I found. I was looking for more information on Ripple and the SEC, and that came up, on Law 360. The case apparently just settled out yesterday. Is that somehow connected to Ripple? I wouldn't think so. I don't think the two issues, while they are somewhat connected, right? Those Hinman documents are part of the Ripple court case. I don't know how anything that's going on with Ripple would relate back to Empower's lawsuit to get the Hinman docs. I don't think one settlement would affect the other here. They're totally separate. Hopefully we get some updates on there. Why was that settled out? Why are we giving up on the Hinman documents? I know there's been an ongoing investigation into all of that. Was there some conflicts of interest? We know there was. The question is, will anything ever be quote-unquote found on that? I don't know how hard you got to look. I would have found it by now if I was investigating this. The guy was getting paid millions of dollars by an Ethereum Alliance member, was told not to meet with him, not to discuss this type of stuff with him, and he just goes on this wildcat, regulatory clarity, Hinman's personal regulatory clarity. Whether he was paid or not, he shouldn't have done that, and there was definitely a conflict of interest, even though I have no faith that anything ever happens there. I think it just goes away with the sands of time, and we'll never hear about it again, much like so many things with government. Just the way life works, unfortunately. You never know, though. Let me know what you think down below. As always, please like, please subscribe. The revolution will be televised right here on Jungle Link.